too much blood. And I can see your gaunch. Just do it.
Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about Ginger Snaps. This is directed by John Fawcett and stars Katherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins. This movie is really interesting and quite bizarre. I would say that at the time of this movie's release back in 2000, this movie would have been pretty original. So when this movie starts, we get introduced to a scene that really sets us up to what we're sort of going to be expecting throughout the film. We get to see a dog that has been completely eviscerated, just totally ripped apart from end to end in the most graphic way that you could probably think of.
Baxter?
If you pay attention to some of the dialogue that's being mentioned between some of the characters in some scenes throughout that first 15 minutes, you might be able to guess what this movie's about. But if you're not really paying that much attention and you're like, oh, this is just going to be another generalized horror movie or whatever, you'd be wrong. At least not in the way of its overall execution anyway. Okay, so there's two sisters, Bridget and Ginger, and they are both obsessed with death. You can tell straight off the bat from the start in the montage that the movie showcases for their school project. They actually showcase to the classroom a series of different forms of suicide, letting people know their creativity in how different ways people can die.
Fuck. Wrists are for girls.
I'm slitting my throat. You should definitely hang.
The makeup effects are all practical, they're gross, they're gruesome, totally over the top, really realistic, and there is not a shred of special effects throughout this whole film. Now these two sisters, they're so obsessed with death that when they were in their early teens or even in their one-digit years, they made a pact with each other that they were going to die together at the age of 16, which just in general sounds really intense and so over the top. You can tell that the relationship between the two sisters is just really, really strong.
Want me to kill her? I'll kill her for you, B. Whatever. No, not whatever. This isn't whatever.
Or she has that dog.
She screws the drug dealer. She's begging for negative attention.
So the two sisters are going out one night and they're like, oh, we need to come up with a plan that can, really get back at this bully who's been bullying them at school and whatnot. So we're going to kidnap her dog and make it look like it's been, ripped apart like all these other dogs that have, been biting it pretty fucking hardcore lately in the neighborhood. But when they're thinking about what they're going to be doing, they come across a dead dog in a park. And then they end up getting attacked by a werewolf.
Let's get out of here.
That's right, a werewolf. Now, remember what I said before. This movie has no special effects. This has no CGI in it whatsoever. So everything is all practical effects. It's robotics, makeup effects, that's it. And when you think about it, with a movie that has a budget of peanuts, it does a pretty good job with what it has to deal with. So Ginger's the one who ends up getting bitten, hence the title name Ginger Snaps. And throughout the rest of the movie, we get shown a gradual change, a gradual transformation of her going from a human to having personality changes, having slow visual changes, very slow, until the next moon.
Did I change last night? How would the moon kill shit and change back this morning? Huh? No. Did it take a silver bullet to stop that thing? No, it got killed by a fucking truck.
You always blow off anything you don't get.
Yeah. When it's bullshit.
You're doing drugs with guys. Something is definitely wrong with you.
The execution of Ginger's transformation into a werewolf is done so perfectly that you almost can't really find that many flaws in how the movie's made because of the budget being practically peanuts. Like, I'm being dead set serious. This is one of the best werewolf movies I've ever seen for today's modern era, especially with the budget that they had to work with. Like, this is just done so well.
It's gotta be a cure, right? Otherwise there'd be a hell of a lot more of them.
It's like an infection. Works from the inside out. It's like a virus.
Right, see, biology. And there's something you can sink your teeth into, so to speak. You're real. Your problem's real. The solution's real.
The transformation process is like sexually progressive intensity as time goes on. Like, she's in heat all the time. Her hair slowly changes, her face slowly changes, her nails change. And when you get to that climax of the film, I'm not gonna say it here, but when you get to that point, you're like, from what you see from the very beginning of the movie, regardless of how it's gonna turn out, whether, you know, she's okay or whether she's not, it's still, you know that there's still going to be somewhat of a sadness to the ending of the film because of how you've seen the relationship between the two of them be so closely knit together. Like, you've seen this this bond between the two of them, and then as the movie progresses, because of Ginger's changes, you know, that bond slowly starts to pull apart and, you know, slowly crack and, you know, sort of break apart a little bit more and more and more.
I killed their pets, B. Nothing helps except tearing live things to pieces. I can't be like this!
This is monkshood. First thing tomorrow, we find out how to use it, we take off. You give up now, you leave me here alone. I would never do that to you.
I'm sorry. I'm scared.
If you haven't seen this movie, this is one I would highly recommend as a actual good movie, not as a popcorn flick. I think this movie is done really well, and it is definitely worth your time. And I think that these sorts of movies need to be promoted a little bit more than what they are, because I think these days some movies kind of have to be forced into a position of where they have nearly no budget to work with. So they have to use creativity, and they have to use story, and they have to use character development, and they have to, you know, do all these things to push the story along rather than distract the audience with like special effects and this huge extravagant cinematography on a massive landscape that actually has no meaning to anything whatsoever, and it just looks really cool.
Hello, Bridget.
Stop it!
I like little girls.
Leave him alone! Ginger, stop! Stop! Ginger, money! Please stop! Ginger, stop! He hasn't done anything!
I don't like how he looks at you.
As much as I would like to keep praising this film, I'm gonna say go out and see it for yourself. Next week, I will be reviewing Ginger Snaps 2. If you guys want to see that review, be sure to subscribe, like the video, all that jazz, and a bag of chips. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, please hit that like button. If you didn't like it, then hit that dislike button. And for the rest of you, I hope you guys are all having a mad day. Until next time, peace. Blah, 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 blah.
That's my master's thesis. What are you doing? Well, I'm going to start a little fire under your chair and roast your nuts.